It was 2:13 a.m. when the elevator shuddered to a halt on the 14th floor. The air in the dim corridor felt stale, as if it had been locked in for decades. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, flickering with an uneven pulse. Elisa stepped out, her boots echoing against the cracked, faded linoleum. The walls were yellowed with age, smeared faintly with something darker near the baseboards. A draft brushed past her ankles, thin, cold, unnatural. The scent of mildew and rust clung heavily to the air, mixed with something metallic. Far down the hallway, a door creaked open by itself, the sound sharp and dry. Her breath caught. She strained her ears. Silence swallowed everything, thick and suffocating. Even the city noise from downtown Los Angeles felt impossibly distant here. In her chest, her heartbeat began to quicken, fluttering like moth wings against glass. Her fingertips tingled with static as she reached into her coat pocket for the room key. But her hand froze. Something shifted in her periphery. A shadow, impossibly thin and long, slid across the far wall. No footsteps, no breeze. Just the shadow moving, twisting, like smoke caught in reverse. Her skin prickled, the tiny hairs rising as if brushed by unseen fingertips. Elisa turned sharply, but the hallway behind her was empty. The air felt heavier now, pressing against her ribcage. A low hum began to vibrate deep in the floor beneath her boots. Then she heard it. A faint splash, a distant, echoing drip of water coming from the rooftop stairwell. The sound shouldn't have reached this far down. Compelled, as if drawn by invisible threads, she crossed the hallway. Her fingers trembled as they curled around the cold metal of the stairwell handle. The metal was slick, as though misted with condensation. Or was it something else? Slowly, she pushed the door open. The stairwell loomed before her. Concrete walls streaked with black metal steps rusted and groaning. The dripping water grew louder, sharper, and mixed with it, faintly, the whisper of voices. Soft, indecipherable, layered upon each other like fragments of forgotten dreams. Elisa's pulse throbbed in her ears as she placed one foot on the stairs. A sudden gust swept upward from the darkness below, colder than ice. It carried a scent of decay so thick her stomach lurched. She stumbled, her hand gripping the railing slick with moisture. And when she glanced down the stairwell shaft, there were eyes, dozens of them. Pale, unblinking, glassy eyes staring up at her from the shadows below. Their gazes locked on hers, unflinching, silent. And as her throat tightened, strangling a scream, the voices stopped. The dripping stopped. And in the hollow stillness, she realized something was climbing up the stairs toward her. The clang of metal echoed softly as unseen weight shifted on the steps below. A slow, deliberate scrape. Then another. Each step dragged with a hollow, wet resonance. Elisa's chest tightened, breath shallow and sharp. Her fingers twitched against the railing, nails biting into rust. She couldn't move. Her legs felt fused to the concrete. The eyes disappeared into the darkness below, swallowed whole. But the sound, that dragging, gliding ascent, it grew closer. She swallowed hard. Her throat burned dry, as if coated in ash. The stairwell lights flickered once, dimming to a dull amber glow. Shadows stretched long and jagged across the crumbling walls. A soft whisper brushed past her ear. A wordless sigh, colder than breath. Her knees buckled. She gripped the railing tighter, feeling it tremor under her palm. The thing was nearly at her level. A shape began to emerge from the gloom. Too tall, too thin. Limbs elongated unnaturally, as though joints bent where they shouldn't. Skin slick and gray, glistening faintly in the dim light. It had no face, only smooth, featureless flesh where eyes and mouth should be. Yet somehow, she knew it was staring directly at her. Her ears rang with a sharp, piercing frequency. Her vision blurred at the edges, tunneling inward. Still, she could not tear her gaze away. A single drop of dark water fell from the ceiling above. It splashed on her wrist. Thick, warm, and viscous. Not water. Her breath fractured into shallow gasps. The creature's head tilted sharply, inquisitively, like a bird dissecting its prey. It reached out a hand, long fingers ending in translucent, claw-like nails. And as they neared her skin, the voices returned. Louder now, frantic, 1,000 whispers spiraling in foreign tongues. They flooded her mind, pressing against her skull with searing pressure. Her legs gave way. She collapsed to her knees, hands clutching the sides of her head. Darkness bloomed at the edges of her sight, but just before the void swallowed her, the creature stopped. Its fingers hovered a breath away from her cheek, and in a single jarring motion, it crumbled into a cascade of black, silken ash. The ashes spiraled upward, scattering into nothing. The stairwell light snapped back to full brightness, stark and sterile. The dripping water ceased. The voices vanished. Elisa gasped, drawing in a lungful of cold, sour air. The stairwell was empty, the metal railing warm again under her fingertips. And yet, beneath her skin, the sensation of invisible claws lingered. Shakily, she rose to her feet. Her knees trembled, but she forced one step upward, toward the rooftop, toward the source of everything that had started days before. And somewhere deep within the concrete bones of the Cecil Hotel, something stirred, waiting, watching. Each step she climbed felt heavier than the last. The stairwell seemed to stretch endlessly upward, spiraling into an impossible distance. Her boots dragged, soles sticking faintly to the damp metal. Her breath echoed hollow in the narrow space, matching the slow rhythm of her heartbeat. As she neared the rooftop door, a low groan reverberated through the walls. It vibrated deep within the concrete, like the foundation of the hotel was exhaling. The metal door loomed ahead, chipped paint peeling in long curls. A rusted sign above it read, "Roof Access. Authorized personnel only." Her fingers hovered inches from the handle. The steel was blotched dark, as though scorched by heat or stained by old blood. Outside, the wind howled, thin and mournful between the skyscrapers. It carried a faint scent of chlorine. The scent struck her sharply. Swimming pools. Or water tanks. Her pulse quickened. The same rooftop tanks where guests had long complained of odd-tasting water. Where murky, discolored streams had poured from the taps. Where maintenance reports were quietly buried. Drawing a steadying breath, Elisa pressed her hand to the door. It swung open with a groan, hinges shrieking in protest. The rooftop spread out before her, flat and vast under a cloudless night sky. Concrete cracked in spiderweb patterns beneath her feet. The lights of downtown LA shimmered distantly, blurred by thin fog. And ahead, 4 massive water tanks rose like black monoliths. Their curved metal surfaces gleamed faintly under the flicker of neon signs nearby. A ladder stretched upward along the side of the closest tank. Its rungs rusted, paint flaked away by years of neglect. That same scent of chlorine and something sourer hung thick in the air here. And underneath it, something faintly coppery. Elisa's skin crawled. Every instinct screamed to turn back. But her feet moved on their own, slow and deliberate toward the ladder. Her hand gripped the first rung, metal biting cold against her palm. As she climbed, the wind whipped harsher around her, tugging strands of her dark hair loose. Her boots slipped slightly on a rung slick with condensation. Higher. Higher. Finally, she reached the top edge of the tank. The hatch sat ajar, its metal rim bent and twisted as though forced open from within. A thin trail of dark liquid dripped steadily down its side. Her stomach clenched. The wind fell silent, sudden and absolute. No traffic sounds, no city hum, nothing but the faint rhythmic splash echoing from within the tank. She leaned forward slowly, peering into the darkness below. The surface of the water rippled unnaturally, forming concentric circles that pulsed outward. And then, from the inky depths, something began to rise. Pale fingers breached the surface first, joints contorted, nails split and peeling. An arm followed, thin, emaciated, trailing strands of black viscous hair like kelp. A face broke through next, white as porcelain, mouth agape in a silent scream. Eyes, her own eyes. Elisa staggered back, a strangled cry caught in her throat. Her reflection stared up from the water, but the expression was wrong. Empty. And then, it smiled. A face loomed before her again. Her own face. Eyes hollow, mouth grinning impossibly wide. It leaned in, lips nearly brushing hers. Elisa's heart shuddered once, twice, then slowed. The cold seeped deeper, coiling around her spine. And as her consciousness began to fracture, splintering like glass under pressure, a flash, bright, searing, a violent burst of light erupted from deep within the tank. The water churned violently, the pale figures recoiling in shrieks of static and crackling distortion. Elisa's body convulsed, her lungs convulsed violently. She shot upward through the liquid like a rag doll pulled by unseen hands, toward the hatch. Her fingertips grazed the rim. The metal hissed under her touch, glowing faintly with an otherworldly heat. The hatch blasted open, expelling her into the frigid rooftop air. She gasped, collapsing hard onto the concrete with a wet, echoing thud. Rain had begun to fall, cold needles on her skin. The sky above swirled with black clouds, veins of lightning spidering silently across the horizon. Behind her, the tank gurgled one final time, then fell still. Elisa lay motionless, chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. Her limbs twitched with aftershocks of electricity pulsing beneath her skin. And when her eyes fluttered open, they were no longer her eyes. Pale, glass-like, reflecting nothing but endless obsidian black. Far below, in the heart of the Cecil Hotel, a single hallway light flickered out, and somewhere behind locked doors, unseen mouths smiled, waiting for her return. Elisa's body moved, but it didn't feel like hers anymore. Her limbs rose fluidly, effortlessly, as if guided by invisible marionette strings. The rain slicked her hair to her face, but she didn't blink it away. Her lips parted slightly, exhaling a slow, deliberate breath. It steamed unnaturally in the cold night air, dark, almost black, dissipating too slowly. She turned her gaze toward the rooftop door, her expression blank, serene. One step, then another. Her boots splashed softly in shallow puddles, the sound sharp against the rooftop silence. Her movements were graceful, hypnotic, too smooth to be entirely human. As she crossed the rooftop, a distant siren wailed in the city below. But up here, the sound felt muted, like an echo from another world. Her hand pressed flat against the metal door, and with a soft groan, it swung open before her. The stairwell yawned beneath her feet, shadows recoiling in hushed reverence. She descended slowly. One flight, then two. Her footsteps made no sound now, weightless as a ghost. The walls around her seemed to breathe. Paint bubbled and peeled as if reacting to her presence. Tiny cracks split through the concrete, weeping thin streams of dark water. And faintly, distantly, those whispers returned. "Welcome back. We never left. It's almost time." Her head tilted gently, as though listening to a familiar lullaby. The air thickened, tasting of iron and damp stone. By the time she reached the 14th floor, the lights along the hallway flickered violently. Bulbs popped one by one in rapid succession, glass raining softly to the floor. Room 412 stood at the far end, its door ajar. A thin sliver of darkness leaked from the gap. Not the absence of light, but something deeper. A void that seemed to consume even sound. She approached, fingertips grazing the peeling wallpaper as she walked. It crumbled beneath her touch, releasing tiny clouds of gray dust. Her hand pressed against the door. Slowly, deliberately, she pushed it open. The room was drenched in shadows. Furniture warped and twisted as if melted and reshaped. The bed sagged inward, its sheets rotted and crawling with thin strands of something glistening. On the far wall, a mirror hung crooked, but it reflected nothing. Only black emptiness where her form should have stood. And then, from the center of the room, the floor split silently open. A jagged crack tearing through carpet and concrete alike. Thick, tar-like liquid bubbled up from the fracture. It shimmered with hues that hurt to look at, colors beyond human perception. The whispers crescendoed, swirling into a single unified voice. Deep, ancient, final. You are the vessel. Elisa's lips curled slowly into a smile. Her glassy eyes shimmered under the broken ceiling light. and without hesitation, she stepped forward, sinking gracefully into the gaping wound in the floor. The liquid swallowed her whole. Her body dissolved into the churning void without resistance, and as the last ripple faded, silence fell. Far above, in the empty rooftop tank, a single ripple disturbed the water's surface, and deep within the bowels of the Cecil Hotel, the foundation rumbled faintly, as if something vast had shifted awake for the first time in centuries. The elevator on the first floor dinged softly. Its doors slid open, empty, but the floor display flickered, rapid, random, unending. 14, 7, 3, 14, 5, 14. Somewhere, hidden behind the walls, the whispers began anew. And this time, they carried Elisa's voice. The hotel awoke. The tremors deepened, subtle but relentless, reverberating through pipes, walls, and floorboards. Dust drifted from the cracked ceiling tiles in lazy spirals. Old portraits lining the corridors shifted imperceptibly. Eyes adjusting, following. On the lower floors, doors creaked open in unison. Room after room, their interiors now hollow voids, lined with pulsing, fleshy walls. The carpet writhed beneath unseen feet, seams splitting to reveal veins twitching just beneath the surface. From the darkened lobby, a guttural drone rose, low and constant, vibrating in the bones of the building. Elisa stood at its heart now, no longer entirely human. Her body shimmered translucent, strands of black fluid threading through her veins like ink in water. Her mouth moved soundlessly, lips shaping forgotten syllables older than language itself. Around her, the walls peeled away layer by layer. Behind them, nothing but endless, churning black. A void stretching in every direction. The hotel was no longer bound by place or time. It was unmoored, an intersection between here and something vast, ancient, and indifferent. From the rupture in the floor, pillars of shadow erupted. They coiled upward, winding around Elisa like tendrils of smoke. They didn't touch her. They merged with her. Her eyes snapped open wide, pupils gone. Only endless obsidian reflecting countless pinpricks of light, as if stars had been trapped inside her skull. Her voice rang out now, clear, commanding, layered with thousands of overlapping tones. "We are awake." All across the hotel, mirrors shattered simultaneously. Windows exploded outward, shards spiraling into the night sky and vanishing before they touched the ground. The walls convulsed once more and tore apart entirely, but instead of crumbling rubble and concrete, beyond the ruptured walls stretched an endless expanse. A shifting sea of black fluid dotted with colossal slumbering shapes beneath the surface. Some with spined ridges the size of buildings, some with impossible geometries that twisted the eye and tore at sanity. The Cecil Hotel floated adrift now, a small island atop a vast alien ocean, and above, looming in a sky that was no longer Earth's, a titanic shape unfolded from the stars themselves. It had no discernible form, only cyclopean tendrils of light and shadow stretching across infinity. Eyes, millions of them, blinked open across its shifting mass. They locked onto Elisa, and with her smile widening, arms outstretched in welcome, the being descended. A shockwave of pure, mind-rending force swept outward. Every floor of the hotel bent inward, stretching and distorting into impossible architecture. Hallways looped infinitely into themselves. Staircases led both upward and downward simultaneously. Gravity fractured. Reality folded like paper. And at the center, Elisa rose slowly into the air, suspended by unseen forces. Her mouth stretched impossibly wide, black light pouring from deep within her throat. She was the bridge now, the gateway. "It begins," her voice echoed, cascading endlessly into the void. With a deafening crack, the Cecil Hotel vanished, winked out of existence like a candle snuffed in an instant. In its place, an open wound hung suspended in the fabric of the world, a swirling vortex of shadow, light, and unspeakable shapes. And from it, they came. Silent, relentless, infinite. The veil between worlds had been torn, and Elisa Lam had become its harbinger. Weeks later, Los Angeles buzzed on, indifferent and unknowing. The Cecil Hotel was gone. No rubble, no crater. Just an empty lot where it had stood for nearly a century. Locals avoided the block instinctively. Even the pigeons wouldn't land there. At night, streetlights bordering the lot flickered nervously. Phones lost signal within a block's radius. No police reports had been filed, no news coverage aired. It was as though the hotel had never existed at all. Maps rerouted automatically, GPS glitching when anyone neared the coordinates. But in small, unnoticed ways. The cracks had spread. A businessman vanished in broad daylight after stepping into a mirrored elevator in a distant high-rise. A maintenance worker found a hotel room door, inexplicably sealed into the basement wall of an apartment building halfway across the city. Inside, there was no furniture. Just damp, peeling wallpaper and a thin layer of dark water rippling quietly on the floor. Children whispered about the woman with black glass eyes who appeared in reflections. Standing silently behind them, smiling faintly, and downtown, late at night, passers-by sometimes heard an elevator chime from an empty alleyway. The soft ding carried on the wind, followed by a flicker of whispers too quiet to understand. Elisa Lam was never found. No records, no family inquiries. Not even a memory in the minds of those who had once spoken her name. But under certain conditions, during heavy rain, when puddles grew deep and still, if you stared long enough, sometimes you'd see her, standing far below the surface, arms outstretched, waiting. And if you listened very carefully, just beyond the wind, just beneath the static hum of city lights, you could still hear her voice. Soft, inviting, final. It begins again.